Hello and welcome back for part 2 of this little series I'm doing based on Vega graphics. So the first episode we did was on Navi, specifically the RX 7900 GRE. Today we're focusing on the Vega Frontier Edition. I've had this card for about a year and a half. It runs well, but I've mostly just used it for benchmarks. And that is exactly what we're doing again today. Before we start, I do have to say this was one of the most difficult videos to do. The driver support is very messy nowadays. Originally, it did come with a dual mode of both professional graphics and gaming. That has since been removed. So as soon as you use this card, it is only for workstations, and you cannot overclock it, you cannot undervolt it. The only thing you can change is the fan speed. You can get it to go up to 4900 RPM, and doing so does get you some more performance. I've seen it go up to 1800 megahertz before, but this time I only got it up to about 1711, 1714, around there. So low 1700s. That is still enough to compete with its replacement, the Radeon 7, but it doesn't outright dominate it as it did last time. I gotta be honest, I wish I recorded it last time because that was amazing. But in any case, here are the benchmarks. Okay, so starting out with the benchmarks, we have GTA Online. We have it on 4K high settings with the FSR set to default 4 high. Immediately, the first problem I noticed with the Vega Frontier Edition is you cannot see the overlay. I could not get it to work at all with any games on the computer. At least with AMD Adrenaline, I had to go through the Xbox game bar, and looking back, I realized I could probably do it with Steam. But that was before doing all the recordings. That was the first problem I had with this graphics card. The second problem I had was how to overclock it, or rather, how to get it to work well. The first time I used it, it was able to go up to 1800 megahertz. This time, the highest I saw it go was 1700. That's still a lot better than expected. That is still on par with the Radeon 7 that was supposed to replace this card. But instead of, outright dominating that graphics card, it is just on par. Still, if you're playing either 4K low settings or running games at 1080p, it is going to get you pretty far. The graphics VRAM usage was at about 10 gigabytes for this game, so already we are in that sweet spot for needing to use HBCC on the Vega 64. Hopefully, once I install the 64, it will actually let me see the overlay. I would love to have that on the screen right now, but it just did not want to work. Secondly, in the benchmarks, we have Overwatch. I am not that good at this game, in all honesty. And the first thing I noticed running at 4K high settings was the horrible stutter, which is not something you want to see in a multiplayer game. I tried playing for a little bit like that, and it just kept freezing and getting a lot of lag spikes. I don't know what exactly the frame rate was, but I can imagine it was, I want to say 10 FPS, maybe less. I'm not too sure, so as soon as I died in this part, I immediately switched the graphics settings to 4K low and got a solid and consistent 50 FPS. I'm not sure if Overwatch 2 has any kind of FSR or DLSS, so either there was none used at all or it was a default for 4K low. In any case, solid 50 FPS. It did hit less than 8 gigabytes of VRAM usage, so this one's not going to see much of an upgrade when we switch over to the Vega 64 as soon as we enable HBCC. Third on the benchmark list is Cyberpunk 2077. We started off with some higher 4K settings, but eventually we dropped it down. Next on the benchmark list is Cyberpunk 2077. We started off with 4K mid and low settings. That got us anywhere from 30 to 40 FPS. Eventually I switched down to 1080p ultra settings. That got us starting with mid 60s all the way up to 85 FPS. It still uses quite a bit of VRAM even at 1080p, anywhere from 8 to 10 gigabytes, so we are going to see improvements once we switch over to the Vega 64 and then enable HBCC. Once again, we are playing Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, and this one we stuck with 4K low settings and then dropped the FSR to performance. We got a solid 50 to 55 FPS again. I'm noticing that it's very consistent among all these games where we're getting that kind of FPS range. Once again, it did hit 12 gigabytes of VRAM, so we are going to test this out for the Vega 64. And finally, we are ending the benchmarks with Monster Hunter Wilds. At 4K low settings, we got around 50 FPS once again. However, I did want to test this out with more VRAM usage, so I eventually switched over to 1080p Ultra without any kind of FSR. We got a very low frame rate of 25 FPS. Sounds horrible, and to be fair, it is. But we did see 13 gigabytes of VRAM usage, and that is one thing I do want to test out with Vega 64. Unlike the Frontier Edition, which has 16 gigabytes, the Vega 64 only has 8. Which means that when we do the benchmarks, we can test both with and without HBCC. But on top of that, we can compare the benchmarks of with HBCC to this Vega Frontier Edition. That way, not only will we see the benefits of using it, but we're also going to see any potential penalty loss from using it at all. Anyway, that's it for today. We're just showing off the Vega Frontier Edition. It is not as easy to use as I was hoping. The only way I could get it to run faster was by raising the fan speed to the maximum of 4,900 RPM. Doesn't sound that bad until you realize it is a blower style cooler, which means the fan is screaming indoors. And my computer has a mesh side panel, so I got to hear all of that. I might as well have had the vacuum running as well. It would not have made a noise difference. But that's it for this week. Next week we will be testing out the Vega 64. I will be doing a live stream on Saturday of me dismantling it and switching out the thermal paste, so stay tuned for that. But until then, this was another episode of Nerding Out with Beythastar. As always, I'm Beythastar. Y'all have a good one.